that dirty ass water. We not even gonna send them to Cancun. We're gonna send them to Galveston with that dirty ass water be washing up on the shore. You people think they're in the beach. Y'all located, we y'all gonna send y'all to Cancun. Y'all drive y'all quit. Drive your ass down to Galveston. Come on, man.
So they're not taking a little.
Come on, they need to try, man. We're not getting them no plane ticket to the beach. We send their ass to Galveston, Texas, right where that dirty water washed up on the beach. They can't even get in the water. Come on, man.
Oklahoma City, 106-85 in Game 3. It's 3-0. And you know.
No, Adam, there is no prize for being first in the chat. What is up? Let's get it. Welcome to Monday on the King's Quarter Ry-doe Monday. You heard some inside the NBA off the top. You know why? There is hope for all of you inside the NBA fans. We've got news on TNT. Looking to match. Remember, their contract with the NBA allowed them to match any offers on the new media rights deal. Reportedly, they are going after Amazon's portion of the deal, which would bring TNT back into the fold, which means inside the NBA would hang around. I think that's been the hanging chad. That's been the point of contention for a lot of fans with the new NBA media rights deal. Wonder what that would do for Charles Barkley, by the way. Does that mean Chuck's going to stick around? He's announced his retirement regardless of what happens with TNT, but we'll talk about that more in a little bit. The Kings have wrapped up their summer league portion of the schedule in Vegas, which means it is on to training camp. What did you see this summer? Anything good? Anything bad? What were your thoughts if you watched all the games? They finish under 500 in Vegas, but they do end on a strong suit with a win over the Phoenix Suns. Speaking of basketball right now, Team USA, Germany, locked in a close one. We're monitoring that 92-86 as we sit right now. So Team USA, this is their final tune-up before the Paris Olympics. Remember, I don't think we've been on the air since the South Sudan game. LeBron had to make a late bucket to put USA up 1 point and get the win in that game. No Kevin Durant still. So what's going on there? Let's get to the chat. We've got a lot more, too, to go over. Question of the day, since we usually do a Kings-themed question. If you could own only one Sacramento Kings jersey, just one, what player would it be? Who would it be? I'm kind of conflicted on mine, but I'm pretty sure I know a lot of people have said Jason Williams in the past. I want to see what yours would be. We can also talk NFL over-unders. There's an interesting story by Phil Mushnick in the New York Post that I want to get to about sports gambling. Gambling's been a topic on this show before, but apparently, according to some that use the different gambling platforms that you see advertised all the time, your DraftKings, your ESPN bets, all those, apparently they are beginning to lock you out of your account or not allowing you to make bets if you're too good at it. What? Are you kidding me? That's interesting. So I want to get to that as well. The British Open, Xander Schauffele, final round, 65 to take the British Open, excuse me. That was a fun tournament. What a great showing for Royal Troon. I had never seen the course. I had heard of the course. Obviously, we talked a lot about it last week with Grant. And by the way, Grant and I will be back tonight, 8 o'clock. Make sure you come back for that. We'll be talking a lot of stuff. But Royal Troon, he was talking about his experiences playing there. That course showed up. Not only did it look hard, it looked beautiful, and the sun barely peeked out the entire tournament. But what a fun weekend of golf. We can go over a bunch of stuff. And now Haunted Horse is in the chat. Dude, Haunted Horse, I have some more cat stories for you, my man. We've got the cat on the Ry-doe wheel, dude. These cats, they're not just annoying pets. They're also criminals. You wouldn't believe some of the stories that I found online about cats. Adam, let's go. Yes, indeed. Him and Horse are just going back and forth. You're going Dwayne Coswell. Interesting. Clyde Drexler. I don't think that qualifies, Horse. I do not think that qualifies, my friend. This guy just woke up from an hibernation. In fact, I'm pretty sure he has been playing NCAA football for the past 7 days straight. When was the last time you showered? When was the last time that you ate, went to work? What's up, corn dog?
Oh, it's a full-time gig, college coaching, man. I'm literally flying myself out to random people's houses trying to recruit them.
So you literally on the video game fly to recruits home?
No. I'm just that's it. Right? No, you can do contact family and friends, DM the player, search their social media.
DM the player?
Yeah.
Wow. So seriously though, how many hours are you into this thing?
That's basically been what I've been playing. Anytime I get home, man. Just anytime I'm just hooking up, NCAA 25. That kicking mechanic's brutal.
Speaking a different language, what's the kicking mechanic? Is that how you kick your extra points and your field goals?
Yeah. There's been a lot of memes about it in the college football community and stuff. Somebody said, things that are easier to do than kicking a field goal in college football 25. And one of them was blocking prime Aaron Donald.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I don't kick anything that's over 40 yards. I think it's like almost impossible.
I don't know many people that kick field goals, period, when they're playing a video game. I mean, unless you're doing like a Madden thing and you're playing online or you're playing for money and you got to take the points. Don't you usually just go for it?
Yeah. I guess they really just want you to go for it more and more. I shanked a couple PATs. It's just, it's a good time to be a college football fan. And some of these teams, man, they're crazy. The AI is crazy in this game, man. If you play on that Heisman difficulty, it's insane.
So it's not like, because I know you weren't around as much last week. It's not like before. Like in younger days when you go to get a video game, like it could be sold out. You can get a copy anywhere because it's digital. You can download it.
Yeah. Physical copies aren't, what they used to be. Technically, physical copies nowadays actually don't even have the game on them. They just have the license on it. Because the games would be way too big for the disc to hold on its own.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because some of these games like Call of Duty are, over 100 gigabytes.
Gotcha. A gigabyte, terabyte, megabyte. I don't know the difference. Maybe I kind of do, but
basically, let's just say you're trying to fit this in a box, but then let's say this is a megabyte, and then this is a gigabyte, and this is a terabyte, but the box is only this big.
Yeah, gotcha. Memory. So what's up, man? What have you been paying attention to in sports the last week besides your video game?
I'm hyped up for the Olympics, man.
Are you? By the way, 92-88 right now, Team USA ahead of Germany. Will keep you posted. Oh, it's over. It's final. 92-88. USA wins. So back to you, corn dog. About the Olympics. What are you fired up for? The Olympic speed walking, the steeplechase.
I love track. I love volleyball. I love basketball. I love the swimming. I love it all, man.
The swimming is pretty exciting. I'm not gonna lie. The pole vaulting, pretty terrifying. I'm not gonna lie about that
Yeah,
either.
I
Actually,
love the kayaking, the rowing.
there's just so many Olympic sports, and it feels like they just keep adding more
Skeet is
and
fun.
more and more. And it's like,
Skateboarding now, yeah.
Yeah, skateboarding, I don't mind. I think that's definitely, if you have snowboarding, you got to have skateboarding.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing, but what's next? I've heard arguments for pro wrestling. How the hell would you book that? Pro wrestling.
No, I think we have to keep Olympic style wrestling Olympic.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Olympics where you earn your actual, accolades, and then pro style is where you earn your money.
You know what stinks though to me is you have these athletes that train, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years, 6 years for this opportunity at the Olympics, right? And for a week, 2 weeks, they get their chance, they get their glory, they get their gold medal, but then it's over. There's no, I guess what I'm saying is a lot of the sports that are included in the Olympics, you can't monetize on them. They're not major sports. And so it's like this very tiny window that some of these athletes have to, maybe get that payday, get that bag, or, become relevant in the mainstream media.
Yeah, especially if the USA, the market is, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, and then college football is pretty much like the 5 big ones.
Yeah, exactly. And then track and field, there's no, other than the world championships, there's no track and field leagues that I really know of that would be professional.
Basically, you can be really big in college as a track star. And that's kind of where it ends, really. You win your Olympic stuff. Maybe, you're just so dominant like a Usain Bolt that, you get endorsement deals. But you pretty much have to be like extremely dominant in your Olympic sport that isn't really, marketable to where, you're on Wheaties boxes. You're, doing Nike short ads or, shirt ads and Adidas or whatever, or Pumas.
Yeah.
Because without that, yeah, you're pretty much not making anything.
100%. Well, it's a cool opportunity. I mean, it's basically on from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed.
Actually, fun fact, there is an employee that I work with that was part of the 80s Olympics volleyball team.
Interesting.
Speaking
of your work, apparently somebody from management is in the chat. You haven't showed up for Corn Dog. What's going on, my man?
Oh no, I definitely have showed up for work. No, I don't have the hours to just take a week off like that. I got to save them, for those emergencies.
I hear you. So, Kings wrap up Summer League. Any standouts for you? Anything that's piqued your ears?
Yeah, this team is, these group of guys that we sent in the Summer League, besides Carter, really weren't going to be like the main, make or break for the season for us. We're just these are just guys that look to fill out our roster with potentially, or maybe sent to the G League. Yep. These weren't, your Keegan Murray type of guys out here.
No, I think Keon Ellis was the one that everybody was, especially me. I was not thrilled with Keon's turnovers numbers, but it's difficult to judge. It's kind of like the Sabonis thing. It's kind of the Fox thing. Keon's burn rate was pretty high in the Summer League games. So, of course, if he's touching the ball more, he's probably going to turn the ball over a little bit more. I thought Mason Jones, though, I was impressed with Mason. Like, it wasn't – sometimes with Mace's game, it's up and down. It felt like he was pretty damn consistent all Summer League. I thought he carried himself like a pro. I like his mindset. I like where he's at right now. So I think Mason might make a little bit of noise. He'll definitely be on that G League team if Sacramento brings him back there.
Our Summer League, there's a lot of turnovers in general. They're really good. Like, they could beat anyone in a pickup basketball game off the street, but they're not NBA ready yet.
Yeah.
And they're the tier below the best of the best.
No doubt, no doubt. Still an honor to be able to
Yeah.
play in Summer League. Drew Timmy, I know a lot of I need that sound drop. I know a lot of people have been asking questions about him. I've gotten a ton of questions about him on social media about whether or not he could be a fit for the Kings. No, good G League player probably, but they've got to fill out that coaching staff first. Now that Lindsey Harding is headed to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, you got to fill out the coaching spots too. Coaching matters, especially for the the guys that need to develop. That's really key for guys because some guys they may not be ready yet, but they might have that raw talent. Just need some coaching up to figure out how to play at a high level. You get some late bloomers.
Yeah, you do. Look, some of the best people that we talk about in the NBA, they've been late picks. Jokic. How about Jokic? Late pick. How about Isaiah Thomas here in Sacramento? Last pick. He was a hell of a player. He's still trying to make a run at it. But yeah, definitely.
Thomas was putting up great numbers with us and with Boston.
Yeah, Boston, man, he left it all on the court for him, for them. He went through a really difficult time personally with the loss of his sister, which was unexpected, and thought he was going to get that payday, but he got hurt, and the rest was history. But one of the best people I've ever been around for sure, Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, he was great. I remember, when he was the pizza guy.
The pizza guy. Yes, indeed. I remember that too. All right, brother. Come back at 8 o'clock. Grant and I will be rocking and rolling, talking many things. So, and stay up in here. We're going to have some fun today.
All right, man. I got to go kick some college football ass again.
You got it, brother. Appreciate it. Yes, CT Dog. Welcome to the party, buddy. Yes, Bronny was a late pick too. Shouldn't have been a pick at all. Showed some signs of life, actually, at the end of Summer League. But the thing that would be really good for the NBA and really good for Bronny is the G League. We've talked about it at length. It makes so much more sense to have him in the G League, both for the NBA and the Lakers, because it's going to put butts into seats, and that's where he needs to develop. So the Timmy Shimmy. Yes, I saw that. The little 1-2 like that after getting the and one. He's just one of those guys that has a knack to be around the basketball. He's been coached well. Mark Few and Gonzaga. Gonzaga usually produces some pretty damn good big men. Steven Adams. Who else is from Gonzaga? Domantas Sabonis. So definitely that tie there. IKD animator videos are so good. Are those the ones and I'm going to show my age here, where you could put anybody's face on that dancing body that's like walking onto the stage on Coachella and the crowd's just going nuts? Is that what you're talking about, CT Dog? Really interesting there. I mentioned at the top of the show, by the way, and we're going to go back to this really quick. The NBA media rights deal, not necessarily done according to The Athletic. So check this out. It seems that TNT has informed the NBA that they are going to attempt to match the offer that Amazon has made to cover the NBA games for not this season, starting next season. It's a $2.2 billion deal. Amazon's part, $1.8 billion. And interesting enough, the league's preference, according to The Athletic, I'm looking at it right now, is to honor the $1.8 billion per year contract it agreed to with Amazon, which seems really weird. I mean, I guess you would want to take up for your new partner, right? But at the same time, it's TNT. It's inside the NBA. It's a fabric of the NBA. So TNT's intention to go after Amazon means that NBC is in the clear to join the incumbent ABC, ESPN, or ABC and ESPN as a new partner when the deal is officially announced. NBC will have regular season games exclusively on Peacock on Mondays. So NBA games are going to a paywall. We knew this. And speaking of a paywall, I would expect that is likely going to come into play in the coming years for our local games. We're spoiled because we have NBC Sports California. Other teams have Bally's, and all the regional ones are different. But you saw some of these regional carriers begin to collapse, which started with the San Diego Padres, and so a lot of their games had to go over onto MLB TV, which I don't know how it's going to work, but it may be a pick and choose. The NBA League Pass might not have the same power that it used to have, or it might have all the power in the world, where if you want to be able to watch your Kings games, you got to get League Pass. But then the blackout rule, that is one of the weirdest rules. You've seen it in football for years. You see it all the time in the NBA. If the Kings are playing on national TV, if it's TNT, you can't get it anywhere else. You got to watch it on TNT. So how would that work into everything? But the fact that ESPN is still going to retain the NBA Finals, not a surprise. That will continue to be on ABC. ESPN reportedly paying around $2.6 billion. Think about that. $2.6 billion per year. $2.6 billion. You know what they pay for the NFL? $2.7 billion. It is a lot of money, a ton of money. How confident are you in USA Basketball bringing home the gold? I'm going to sound like an idiot, C-Dog. I'm not super confident, to be quite honest with you. The roster's old. You've got some great players on that roster. You've got some great youth, but I truly worry about the defensive end of the court with this team. I feel like the way that the rest of the world plays basketball, and realize when they're playing these exhibition games, and this is strictly my opinion, they're going out and they're trying, but they're treating them as such. Exhibitions, the rest of the world, even if it's an exhibition, you get a shot at LeBron James, you get a shot it's Steph Curry, you're going to give it what you give it in the exhibition is going to be no different than what you give it in the Olympics. Same goes for Steve Kerr's rotations. Maybe those tighten up when you get to the Olympics. But getting back to my point, I worry about the defensive end because you look at, yes, you have Derek White, but you look at the other guys that are going to be on the court for Team USA in the backcourt. You're going to have Steph Curry, Drew Holiday. He is a great defender, no doubt about that. Devin Booker. Okay, but foot speed for them is not necessarily a strength. And I don't think Steve Kerr, you know this, he likes to switch a lot. And I don't know how that's going to go over with the rest of the world with the amount of back cuts that you see all the time with basketball players internationally, the way that they move the ball. It's just different. So, everything for USA, their biggest strengths, nobody can play with them in transition. Nobody. And I'm talking about when they're on offense and running a break. You can't do it. And on the offensive end of the ball, they're impossible to guard unless they have tired legs. And I think you can grind them down defensively to the point where it could affect their offensive game. So yes, they ultimately win the gold, but I think it's going to be a little bit more of a bumpy ride than many people are expecting. And yes, they will roll over certain teams. You will see a different level of play from these guys once the Olympics start. But I mean, I'll kick it back to all of you. How confident are you in this USA basketball team? You see the roster and you know it's the best roster out of every other country in the world, but they haven't looked great. So let me know what you think. I mean, if I had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being a slam dunk and 1 being an air ball, I'm probably at an 8, but the fact that I'm not at a 10, that's a problem if, it's the USA. So let me know what you guys think. Let's see. It's YouTube videos on hip hop. Thanks for hooking that up, CT Dog. I'm old, man. I'm 40. I'm a man. I'm 40. I don't know all this tech stuff other than what we do here. USA Basketball is going to get the bronze. LeBron's doesn't have Kobe. Interesting. And then there is the KD piece, which we'll get to in a second. And need the finals back on NBC. Those were some of the my best memories of basketball on a national level always were the NBA on NBC. First, you got that Tesh song. Dun, 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 dun. It's actually my ringtone, by the way. I've worried about that when I've gotten calls during the show. I'm like, oh, that's going to be a copyright violation. But whether you loved him or hate him, Bill Walton did a great job. You had Marv Albert, you had Snapper Jones. It was great stuff. And then even on the in studio, you had Bob Costas. You had what was the other, Peter something? It's gonna come to me. But their little in studio thing, he was the insider. I thought the coverage was awesome. I can vividly remember certain times, and I actually have a list of what are considered, according to one website, the top 10 shots in basketball history. And a few of those occurred on the NBA and NBC. In fact, there was a Bob Costas. Let me see if I can pull this up really quick. Bob Costas, after the Bulls won their last championship with Jordan in Utah, he had this 2-minute take on how basketball, or that age of basketball, the way that you saw teams put together, may never be the same. And he basically predicted the future of where the NBA was headed. It was absolutely amazing. Let me see if I can pull this up really quick. But yeah, I would love to see that. But yes, the NBA on NBC was amazing. Here we go. Listen to these closing remarks from Bob Costas after the Bulls won their championship in Utah. Incredible stuff. He talks about the salary. It's amazing. Check this out.
Bulls fans, there is, of course, cause for celebration tonight after a 6th championship that came harder than the others. But there's some anxiousness mixed in as well. Who knows how all of this will play out, but it's certainly possible that tonight we saw the last of the Chicago Bulls as we have known them. And whether it ends here or sometime in the near future, it'll be noteworthy not just for the breakup of one of the great teams in sports history, but because given the present structure of pro sports, it may be quite a while before we see anything like this again. Oh, the organizations that have the resources, the Yankees, the Braves, the Cowboys, the Lakers, and the NBA, will almost always field contending teams. But the days of continuity may be ending. Even on the best teams, there's now so much turnover that it's becoming ever harder to follow and identify with teams. Loyalty has been fragmented, which brings us to an underappreciated aspect of this golden era in the NBA. It hasn't just been Bird, Magic, and Michael. It was the whole recognizable cast of characters around them that gave the Celtics, the Lakers, and the Bulls their texture and made following them all the more interesting. Even the Jazz, noble runners-up 2 years in a row, are personified by the longest tenured coach in the league and 2 Hall of Famers who have been teammates for well over a decade. We'll see championship teams in the future, but will we see teams that endure this way? And as for Michael Jordan, all the superlatives have been exhausted and almost all.
Isn't that incredible? It's like he had a crystal ball. It was incredible. Gammon, gonna get to you in a second. Seems like 5 people playing iso ball. Exactly right. And that's kind of what Team USA has always been to a degree. And, just what you said, the other guys here that have been playing together their whole lives, there is something to be said about that with the chemistry in basketball. There is not another team in the Olympics that can, player for player, compete with Team USA. However, when you put them all together, it can cause a problem. Speaking of the guys that have been playing their entire lives together, that take their programs, their Olympic programs, seriously, where it is hardcore training, not just 2 weeks in Vegas for the NBA pros, the NBA All-Stars, and then off to the Olympics. No, they are working it year after year, building up to this point. And when they come together as a unit, it's how you get beat. It really, really is. So we'll get to more of that in a minute. Let's bring in our man, Gammon. Gammon, what's up, brother? I can't hear you, Gammon. You there? No audio. Gammon's got a haunted horse issue. No worries. I'll come back to you in a second, all right? Cool. We're gonna call that the haunt. Gammon just did the haunted horse. He did the haunted horse dance. That's what that is. CT dog, get me like a gif of like haunted horse and Gammon doing that stuff. That's what I need right there. That'll be the new haunted horse thing. Bob Costas is too old and not good at broadcasting anymore. I like NBA being on TNT. Love it on TNT too. Yeah, Bob Costas is getting up there, but he was spot on when he said that about teams and being able to compete and teams being together for 4, 5, 6 years. It was very much spot on. Gammon, you there with us?
Yes, check 1 2 1 2.
We got you, brother.
All right,
How you doing?
right. Doing great. Glad to be here another day and talking Sacramento Kings.
Amen.
So, and then, but especially Team USA. When you were bringing up how much do I think that Team USA will bring back gold? I still am extremely confident that they will do that. Now, in the manner in which they bring back the gold, I think there's going to be a lot of close games. I mean, this is a team that's going to have to win in a shootout. If anything, what I've seen from these exhibition games, if I'm a team that's playing in their class, right? So we're talking about Serbia, Sudan, so on and so forth. The thing I'm telling myself is like, look, we've got to make these guys play defense.
Yep.
Right? Make them work hard on both ends of the floor. The other thing too is I'm looking at the tape. I'm looking at the tape if I'm Serbia. I'm looking at the tape if I'm France. I'm looking at the tape if I'm Sudan. Right? Anybody who has young bigs with young legs, you know what we're doing? We're setting high picks, high screens.
Correct.
All game long. I don't know who is doing this. And Brian, I don't know if you've seen this too. I haven't seen anybody just openly state this, but it's something that's like, I keep seeing and it's been bothering me. And I'm just going to say this out loud for the general fan who hasn't been paying attention to this or didn't notice this until now. But I don't know who is coaching the USA men's basketball team that when there's a pick or a screen to not fight over the top. And instead they're taking the underneath. Now, I do know, that you were talking, Bob Costas, he's talking about the Jazz and the pick and roll. That's where Stockton and Malone made their butter, right? That high pick screen. And then you take that, kind of down the alleyway. So it's either an open shot for Stockton or you've got a runner in the lane with Malone. He used to throw out his knee. I don't know if people remember that, but you have this guy who's about the same size as LeBron James throwing out his knee to kind of create that distance. But I don't know if that's something else that you saw. We don't really like to fight over the top of screens. And I don't know if that's because we're afraid of our length or our speed in order to cut back, or just communicating like, hey, you got this man, I'm fighting over the top. You know what I mean? We got to rotate.
Yeah, I thought the best illustration of what you were talking about was after it was the first exhibition game against Canada that took place in Vegas. Canada in the first couple quarters dashed them from the mid-range. They dashed them a little bit going towards the hoop, dribble penetration. SGA came off a couple of picks. You've got two guys, Gammon, and Derek White and Drew Holiday that can go through screens. Everybody else can't. Steve Kerr is notorious because it's a Popovich thing. It's a switch thing. They're going under because they want the rest of the world to shoot the three. That's what they want. They want them to shoot the three. And that's why the world has put more of an emphasis on the three than they did in past years. But that's not the shot they want. They want to get inside. And so I think it's a simple case of you don't have the guys to go through the screens. You don't have that makeup because you can play Derek White all game, but he's going to be more of a liability offensively compared to some of the other guys that you have off the bench that could be much better at the offensive end. So it's a coaching thing and it's a problem because just what you said, I'm putting everybody up high. I'm spreading the floor and opening up that mid-range because that's where the rest of the world thrives. Absolutely thrives, Gammon.
Absolutely. And the other reason why I question this, because I know a lot of people who are watching this or are going to watch this, the replay on this is going like, Gammon, why is that such a big deal if we're trying to force them to shoot a tough three versus, letting them into lane to kind of get that two? And the reason why I say this is because this 3-pointer that we're talking about is shorter as far as a foot distance
Correct.
than it is in the NBA.
1 foot. Yes.
Right. Which makes, I know that doesn't sound crazy, but that does make a world of difference. So we're playing them as if they're having to shoot an NBA regulation 3, which in that sense would make more sense. But they're shooting threes that they've been accustomed to shooting their entire professional career, especially with some of those guys, right? Like Sudan had a couple guys who have played in the league or in the G League. So for them, that making that adjustment is probably easier for them. Just like I'm sure Steph Curry's eyes get big when he realizes that he only has to come in. He can come in like a foot. That was number one. Number two, the other thing that I noticed was that it seemed like there were some times, and I kind of got this feeling from watching Devin Booker and some other guys, like if their shot didn't go in, it seemed like these guys were so used to them having their GM or their teams build around them and them just waiting for a hustle guy to come in and then clean that up, maybe go chase that rebound, go make that hustle ball. Whereas, Devin Booker would shoot that. And it's like, you might've been able to hustle that loose ball down, but instead he was just looking around. It's like, nobody else is going to get that, Devin. You're all prima donnas in this game. You guys are going to have to play transition defense. I liked what you said. You said nobody else is better at transition offense than USA. And then I looked at it, I'm like, but USA might be one of the worst transition defense of teams.
Yes.
So what are they doing in practice? Because it seems like that should be one area they should be able to practice really easily.
Yeah, I think that, again, the dial for these guys is not turned up to 10 until the opening ceremonies happen and the ball's rolled out there for the first game in their group. I think that's where you'll see a change in some of that hustle effort. I don't think that you'll see, or I should say, you will see guys like Devin Booker and so on going after those balls. They know that it's on them. They're not going to expect anybody else to do it for them. But the liability goes back to the defensive end, because all too often, Gammon, if you make these guys work on defense, it makes the offensive side so much harder. And especially when you have old guys playing or older guys like LeBron James, it's going to be 41. Kevin Durant, what's his status going to be? He still has not played. He's ramped it up a little bit more in training. But those are all things where if Team USA has to work on defense, watch the hell out. Again, tonight, they only scored 92? So not the best.
With all of these shooters, which just is mind-boggling. I think that they're really going to – and so what I'm getting from you, Ryan, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm getting from you is that these guys, they realize that they're a little more geriatric, they're a little bit older, and so they're saving their bodies. They're not getting bruised and banged up, and they're saving that for prime time. Where there's some speculation on the availability of Kevin Durant, but they're probably like, hey, we're just going to save you and throw you in there like a cold dish because he hasn't been warmed up in any of this, but just assumption like, hey, we're going to get him his minutes. So I really wonder how many minutes we're getting out of Durant. But yeah, I mean, to your point, and you're saying like Booker is then just going to, or the assumption, we're hoping, I don't know if you're assuming or if you're hoping that Booker then just is like, I'm going to be a two-way player and then just start sacrificing.
They're gonna go Gammon. They're gonna go balls to the wall. It's the difference between the regular season in the NBA versus what you see in the postseason in the NBA, where it's just turned up a notch. And that's what's going to happen with the Olympics start. And I mean, there's nothing that I've seen with any of these guys that seem like they're dogging it, but I think they're just going to be in for a little bit of a bigger fight than most people are expecting.
Yeah, they're protecting themselves, is I think what you're trying to say.
100%.
Because otherwise, if you didn't say that, then I would be very, very worried. And even if they are protecting themselves or they're holding back, like you said, that 90 point performance, this team just to me is just too loaded to put up a 90 point performance, especially with how good we are in transition basketball. And our team defense, I'm gonna take your word on it. So they're protecting themselves, right? They're not really putting their bodies out there. We're probably not screening as hard as we can for each other. But the team defense, right? Not even just the one-on-one defense, but that team defense has not Ryan has not given me a lot of confidence, and I'm just watching this. But I think that you're adding a lot more. What do you want to call that? Nuance to what it is that we're watching, and what we're watching is these guys aren't putting their very best, their 110% effort in this. But I did. If you rewatch that Sudan game, I mean, that was a game we should have lost. Definitely.
100%. LeBron pulled it out at the end, but yes, they should have lost. And imagine what it would have. And actually, Gammon, even with them winning that game, let's look at all the performances that they've had in the exhibitions. Really hasn't been that impressive other than Serbia. Serbia is the only game where they came out and handled their business.
Dog walked them.
Exactly. And
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, and that's the problem. I mean, they're going to get out of the group stage, but you have one bad performance in the medal rounds, you're done. It's done. Single elimination. You're winning a gold medal.
Right. And the big thing I would say that Serbia would be able to still hold their head up high about is that I think their second best player is Bogdan,
Bogey. Yeah.
Yes.
Bogdan.
And he's really good at kind of cutting and slicing up the interior, which I think will do wonders for a guy like Josic, the Joker. But yeah, I mean, you're saying they'll get out of the group stage easily. And then I do like your but, if they have a shallow performance, this is a perimeter shooting team. They're not getting their 60, 70 points inside the paint, right?
Correct.
So if they have one of those games, and it happens.
They gave up 68 in the paint to Australia. 68 in the paint. And these are 10-minute quarters. These aren't 12-minute quarters.
I don't know.
It's strictly the defensive side. That's why I said at the top, that is my worry. It's the defensive end and how they're going to have to work there and how it affects the offense. And I think that's where Steve Kerr is going to have a beat on this team and make substitutions, get fresh legs in there. I mean, Gammon, there's a reason that Princeton, there's a reason that Air Force, the team that we played against in college, that they're always smaller. They're never as athletic as you are, but they always make you work. They always compete. And it's because of the systems that they run. It's because of the hard cuts. It's because of the hard screens that they set and the effort. And that's what the world does. That the world plays, for the most part, fundamental basketball. Yes. Whereas in America, a lot of times it's more the flashy, the three-point game, the athletic game. And when those two worlds meet, sometimes anything can happen.
Right. And fundamentals is always going to be, that's always going to keep you in the game, realistically.
Yes, and 100%.
And Sudan and Australia really made us work. I think it's going to be a different animal when we see Serbia again. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of legs Kevin Durant has underneath him, because you're going to want to get that guy 15 minutes. I would imagine, again, if our perimeter shots are not falling, at least what I'm seeing from a team defense, again, and I'm taking your word for it and you're providing the nuance to this conversation, that these guys are going to turn it up a notch. They're going to dial it up from a 7 on defense to an 8 or a 9. Which would be a world bit of difference. But if their shot's not falling, the way these guys, they're not team rebounding, right? I don't see a lot of them finding a body, boxing them out. Sudan made them work. Australia made them work. I was expecting the same thing from Serbia. That didn't happen, but again, no bogey. I'm not really too concerned about France. Their backcourt, I think their front court scares me, but their backcourt, I think, is just way overmatched. And as long as those guys play defense on the ball, Drew Holiday, that's going to make everything else a nightmare, feeding in those guys. But yeah, I mean, seeing some of this stuff, again, team defense has been alarming. I am curious to see what Steve Kerr does. I'm curious to see what you think, what you think the lineup the best starting lineup could be out there, or even, hey, the last few minutes to close out games, I think is going to be huge. That's the rotations that I'm going to be watching. I am going to be going back over the film and kind of seeing exactly how these guys were playing us. if it was just a youth, their legs kind of thing. I didn't think that we looked too tired, but I didn't think we wanted to put too much energy on defense either. But, it's just kind of, I don't know, but if we're not putting that much energy on defense, we should score more than 90 points. So I don't.
I feel you.
It's a different kind of recipe.
I feel you. I think the nuance too here is going to be the Kevin Durant factor. And I know you've brought him up multiple times, but at what point does Steve Kerr take his foot off that gas pedal with Durant if it's not click, if he is still hurt, if it's just not meshing with the team? You got to make a decision there. And there's a lot of what ifs here. Nobody's inside the building and knows exactly what's going on with his rehab. But, you can't just, even though, he is one of the most dominant players in Olympic basketball history, if it's not working, you got to go somewhere else. And so it seems like the USA is pretty confident that he's going to be able to give it a go because they've sent other people home out of injury concerns and otherwise. Kevin Durant, even though he's not played a lick yet in this exhibition time, they got their eggs in his basket.
And you said one of the best players in NBA history, but also too, probably one of our top performers outside of Carmelo Anthony as far as being on this international.
No, I said in Olympic history. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I missed that. That part. Yeah, absolutely. And then, but yeah, I appreciate you for having me on, but it sounds like brother. We're kind of like-minded on a lot of these topics, but I'm concerned in the fact of I think that we'll get gold. I still just think there's too much talent. But again, my thing is the fashion in which we do this. I think we're gonna have we're gonna dial it up a notch, but so are these other teams. And we can't be the only team that's gonna be like, okay, now it's actual game time. Now we need to, like, these other teams got a little bit more film on us and see what our tendencies are as a team, not as an individual. And that awe that we have is not going to be there. These guys are going to play us a lot more strategically. And I see that they're going to empty their bag on us a little bit. They're going to have plays specifically against us. And Kerr we're going to have to fight over the top of some of those screens. Like we're going to have to, because I was watching some of the shots that some of these other teams are getting up, but if they watch the tape again, they go like, they're going to give us these shots. We just have to take them. Like, to your point, all it takes is for us to have one bad shooting effort night, and then for these guys to capitalize and execute that same night could be a real problem. Thank you so much for your time, Ryan.
Yeah, appreciate it, Gammon. Good call as always. And thank you for your service, Gammon. I always tell you that when you come on. Look, the USA wants to dare the world to take early shots because that plays into their favor. You don't want to, if you're Steve Kerr, have those guys working 15, 18 seconds into the shot clock defensively every single game. So shot selection is going to be huge from the world. If the world can pull back a little bit and not take that first open 3-point look they could probably get a better look later in the possession. But it should be interesting. I mean, I always think about the Pau Gasol and Kobe Bryant moment from the Olympics when Kobe comes out and says, first game, I'm going to run right through Pau's chest when they were playing Spain. And he did. And it set a tone for the rest of Team USA. That tone will be there. These guys were very close with Kobe. They know what it means to represent their country and those that have played before them. Not only are they accountable to the nation, they're accountable to the guys that wore that jersey before, that have won gold. So you will see it ratcheted up or, pumped up a little bit, turned up as they roll into the Paris games. But the defensive end, Grant does not want to have this conversation. He's not hearing it. USA is better. They have to win gold. I get it. But there is some nuance because of the defensive end of the court and this team. Because quite frankly, outside of two guys, the defense really is not there. Let's see. You said Cowboys. Who said Cowboys? Interesting. Bob Costas calling MLB or Yankees games is not good anymore. Yeah, Bob Costas is a little bit, how do you say it? Como se dice? Full of himself. at this point. That's how I'd put it. Alberto, what's up, man? Can someone catch me up on what's going on with TNT? Yes, TNT plans to match. Remember, they had in the current, I should say, the current NBA media rights deal, it gives them the opportunity to match an offer if they were not going to be included in the next deal, which is being negotiated right now. Grant thought it was like a 5-day period that they had to notify the commissioner. I'm not 100% sure on that time period, but it has been reported by The Athletic that they are trying to, or they plan to match Amazon Prime's portion of the deal, which comes out to about 1.8 billion a year. So it's good news for basketball fans. And no offense to Amazon, I don't know what your coverage would have looked like, but for me, Inside the NBA is like that last great studio show, really, for any of the sports. Inside the NFL used to be a damn good show, but ever since that it moved off of Showtime and now it's on regular network TV, and no offense to network TV, it's fine, good, but it was a different show on Showtime. It was kind of one of those opportunities you got to see more of inside the game. You got the mic'd up clips from that previous week, so you'd always wait to see your teams and see what were they talking about when they got that touchdown, yada, yada, yada. But for me, Inside the NBA, probably the best studio show of my lifetime in terms of sports. Peter Vesey, by the way, that was his name. Peter Vesey used to work in studio with Bob Costas on the NBA on NBC. By the way, can we all agree that's the best sports theme song in the history of pro sports? I think the NBA on NBC was by far the best. All right, we have not, well, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to the Ry-doe deal in a minute. Let's see if USA gets bronze this year. In 4 years, USA is not going to get a medal. See, it would be one of those things, CT dog, that USA gets caught one game, which probably isn't going to happen. Again, 100% in the camp USA wins gold. But I'm also firmly in the camp that I would not be shocked if they get caught. Adam, Devin is such a whiny punk. Least favorite guy in the association? What? Interesting. I could think of a couple before him that I do not like. I like Devin Booker. I ain't got a problem with Devin Booker. Damn, Adam. Holy crap.
What?
You just went in on Devin Booker, my man. I don't disagree, LCap. I don't disagree. I love Edward's swag. I love the fun that he has with the media. He will go out there and lay it all on the line on both ends of the court. You saw that in the playoffs. CT hopping back in. USA is underestimating the rest of the world. Bronze medal this year. Interesting. So a lot of talk about the USA and bronze. My man Dave also saying bronze. Interesting. Okay. All right. So everyone shares some of my concern. Gammon, in your estimation, how much is the USA team missing in a talent like Kawhi Leonard? Good question, Gammon. A decent amount, but if we're talking about a healthy Kawhi Leonard, not a Kawhi who's coming back from an injury, obviously he had knee surgery. He was still having a little bit of swelling, but they got that taken care of. It does hurt the USA in this sense. Kawhi to Team USA would be what DeMar DeRozan is supposed to be to the Kings, in that he is a legitimate, one of the best mid-range threats in the NBA when he's right. And it opened so much more things up for Team USA off the perimeter when you have Kawhi dominating that inside game. So, yeah, good question there. That definitely hurts, because who's your mid-range player right now for Team USA? Who's the guy that owns the mid-range? I don't know. Anthony Edwards, maybe? I mean, Joel Embiid, nope, he's going to be under the hoop. Jason Tatum does most of his damage beyond the three-point line. Anthony Davis, yeah. AD, probably your best mid-range threat there. but really interesting. And then guys like Tyrese Halliburton, what are their roles going to be? Tyrese likely will not get very many minutes, but again, look for the bottom half of Team USA's roster, especially the big men. I anticipate at some point somebody is going to have to step up, whether that's because Embiid deals with some type of injury, whether he gets into foul trouble. It could be for any reason, but a guy like Bam Adebayo, a guy like Anthony Davis, they're going to get leaned on a little bit more than we think once the Olympics start. And let's see, if USA wins bronze, LeBron will rename it to Bronzy. Haunted Horse, dude, you are just like the class clown around here, my man. Class clowning it, dude. Haunted Horse, did you hear about the cat? This is a true story, by the way. Criminal cats, I should say, that broke into the store and ate over $1,000 of fish. Yes, Haunted Horse, somebody's cat broke into a store, whether it was through the vent like the Columbia fans in Miami, whether he just smashed through the front door, whether they left the door open, I don't know, but ate $1,000 of product, dude, or at least ruined $1,000 of product. Cats are criminals, man. Criminals. And some of the stuff that I've seen people do online to train their cats, like some guy has now trained his cat to go around his neighbors' houses to be able to get Wi-Fi passwords or know who has Wi-Fi. It's unreal. Like, come on, man. Dog owners don't do that. I just throw a ball out in the yard for my dog and say, fetch. I'm not asking him to commit felonies. What's going on with you cat owners, man? Dave, we've got some aging players on Team USA. Yes, you do. You absolutely do have some aging players. We had an interesting conversation last week about over-unders in the NFL. And Haunted Horse and I actually did this together. If you want to go through your team's schedule and talk about what you think they'll win, what you think they'll lose, we can. I found some of these NFL over-unders to be interesting. Like the Niners, makes sense. 11 games, 11 and a half games. I think that's about right. But then there's some other teams like the Eagles. The Eagles are 10 and a half. Over under 10 and a half wins. I'm going under all day, even with the Saquon injury. You lose Kelsey. I just don't see them winning 10 and a half. There's some wild ones. In fact, the Lions are at 10 and a half. And I would have expected them to be more around that 11 number. But if you want to go through your team's over-unders, we can. The Packers, an interesting one, 9.5. Jordan Love, for those that have not heard, he is waiting on a new contract before he steps onto the field in training camp. What kind of contract does Jordan Love deserve at this point? It's a really good question. Aren't the Packers kind of in that same territory that the New York Giants were in with Daniel Jones? After Jones had the good year, they make the playoffs, they win a playoff game, and before you know it, you got to sign him to a pretty big contract. I don't remember exactly what the number was, but it definitely affected what they did with Saquon Barkley. And so now you see a similar situation happening in Green Bay. I mean, Jordan Love is definitely not at the point that Aaron Rodgers was at before Aaron got paid. Brett Favre, I'm too young to remember exactly when his first big contract was. But if you're the Packers, I mean, don't you kind of have to pay the guy? I mean, who else are you going to go with? And especially in a division that could be considered open to a degree. So a lot of stuff going on there. Aaron Rodgers, by the way, we have some more Aaron Rodgers news. Aaron Rodgers just can't keep himself out of the news. So you guys remember Aaron had a quote earlier in the season or in the offseason, I should say, that basically said everything needs to be football. You don't miss any team activities. We have to be absolutely all in on the season, right? And then OTAs roll around and Aaron Rodgers misses an OTA and Robert Saleh comes to the podium and says that it was an unexcused absence. Yes, unexcused absence, for whatever that means. And it was actually super confusing. I'm not going to lie to all you. I did not understand exactly why Robert Saleh disclosed that it was unexcused. It just didn't make a lot of sense. Well, Aaron Rodgers went on a podcast and explained it some more. He had a trip to Egypt, and the way that he was more or less explaining what happened was that OTAs, which are optional team activities, they're optional, right? And they let the team, or he let the team know well in advance that he had this trip to Egypt. But I'm looking at both sides of this thing, and you just wonder if Aaron Rodgers does not come out and play well, and I mean really well, and if he is not able to stay healthy, how long does Robert Saleh have a job? It feels like that guy's lucky to even have a job right now. I couldn't believe. I mean, there's certain things that you keep in-house, and when it's your franchise quarterback, when you basically mold a team around Aaron Rodgers, and if you don't remember, he tore his Achilles on, I believe, the third play of the first game last season in New York. It was on 9/11. It was the big debut, but not only did the Jets bring him in, but they also let him mold, shape that roster. They brought in guys that Aaron wanted to have there, like a Randall Cobb, right? Well, now this season, all the pressure in the world is on this guy. And the last thing you want, especially with his surgery, he was opted for a different type of Achilles surgery. It's a newer, different, I guess that's the best way to put it, different. It's a newer surgery that is supposed to speed up the rehab time. So you remember last year, Aaron said, oh, I might be back this season. And everybody thought that he was talking about, well, if they made it deep in the playoffs. No, he was on the field throwing the ball towards the end of the regular season, yada, yada, yada. So the Jets basically have turned the keys over to this guy, but yet you publicly throw him under the bus. It's an unexcused absence. Why? Why are you stirring more stuff up when you guys can't answer fundamental football questions? When the coach, who keeps receipts, by the way, he obviously kept a receipt about Aaron missing training camp or missing one day of OTAs, which were labeled minicamp. And basically, to paraphrase, quote unquote, what it is Aaron's explanation was that they can call OTAs anything that they want. So even though they called it a mini camp, it's really an OTA. So now you have started this back and forth between Aaron Rodgers and the organization. Basically, to me, looks like a little fracture between Aaron Rodgers and the coaching staff. So unless Aaron Rodgers comes out and absolutely has an MVP year and lifts this Jets team up, which has a very, very, very talented defense. The Jets defense is extremely talented. They kept the Jets in many games last year when Zach Wilson couldn't throw the ball, couldn't hit the Atlantic Ocean with the football. They were still in games. So I'm telling you, this is a make or break year, but this game of cat, no pun intended, and mouse between Aaron, the coach, the organization has to stop. If you want everything to be on or focused on football, then just talk football. Don't talk the other stuff. We are still talking about something that happened months ago. Do better, Robert Saleh. Do better, Aaron Rodgers. Do better, Woody Johnson, owner of the Jets. Yeah, something's going to happen there. Something is going to happen there. I just don't see this working out. I would be surprised if Robert Saleh has a job when you want to say Thanksgiving. I bet by the time we get to Thanksgiving, I would venture to say that Robert Saleh does not have a job. And by the way, while we're talking football, I was looking at ESPN and I'm thinking, all right, I'm doing my show prep. What should we talk about today? And one of the top stories is that Jerry Jones is delaying his press conference. His start of the season press conference, that's a top story. He is caught up in a paternity trial right now. Paternity trial. Apparently, somebody that claims to be his child is suing him. And so for a breach of their contract. And now there's a countersuit for Jerry Jones. So their postseason or their offseason press conference has now been delayed because Jerry Jones needs to be in court. The thought of Jerry Jones and children and I don't even want to think about that. So anyways, yes, we are getting it in here on a Monday on the King's Court. Mark talking about Jordan Love. He had one good year and wants an extension, but Purdy still needs to prove himself. Shake my head. Yeah, well, it's the nature of the beast. You got to pay your quarterback, but the problem is you pay the quarterback. You saw what happened in the New York Giants. The quarterback position, is there a harder thing in sports to judge than the quarterback position? Is there a riskier position to draft? I don't think there is. It's hit or miss. You use the Brock Purdy example right there, and it's a great one. The last pick of the draft, and he ends up being the guy. After you move up to get the name that I'm so happy I didn't have to hear all offseason, Trey Lance, by the Niners. Imagine what the Niners would have had they not made that move to get Trey Lance. Man, they would be, I mean, they're loaded, but they would have been definitely loaded. Packers, third or fourth best team in the NFC. Interesting take. Can't blame Jordan Love for sitting out for a contract strike while the iron's hot. Yeah, these guys, isn't it one of the most backwards things to me, and maybe to you as well, that baseball guaranteed contracts, right? NBA guaranteed contracts, NFL not guaranteed contracts, and you have really the shortest out of all of the pro sports. I think NFL definitely is the shortest career span. I want to say it's like 3 years. And by the way, in order to get an NFL pension, you have to be in the league for 3 years or more. So that's why that number is so significant. But you got to get paid. And I see where Jordan Love's coming from, but I just don't know that he's shown enough on the field for it. But, you know, it's not out of the blue. I've always found it fascinating. And I've talked to Grant about this. Maybe I'll bring it up tonight. By the way, Grant and I will be back tonight at 8 o'clock talking all things NBA, Kings, NFL, my MVP of Summer League. A lot of people want to say Drew Timme. I'm going with Mason Jones for the simple fact that he has had a very healthy progression, a very healthy curve. If you look at how he continues to progress, you put more on his plate, and then he clears more room up on his plate for you to give him some more or another helping. I've been very, very happy with what he's doing. You already know what he does on the bench. He's one of those guys that gets the rest of the team fired up. He's a big energy guy. So I thought he showed out for them. But getting back to what I was going to say, and I want to bring this up to Grant later tonight, the dynamic in the locker room when guys hold out. What is that? And Grant's always said, you know, players realize business is business and they stay out of it. But what if you're a guy where, you know, you could be traded? What if you're a guy that's kind of on the fringe and you need that guy on the field to make your job easier, but they're holding out and that can affect your career? I've always wondered how that works and if it's a realistic thing or if it does cause tension in locker rooms when guys hold out. I think it's a very, very interesting conversation. Lions 11-12. All right, I see you. Brett Favre is a Saint, not necessarily. Isn't it funny, though, that Aaron Rodgers' career has followed the exact same path as Brett Favre's so far? He hasn't been to the Vikings yet, and he hasn't taken any pictures, yet, but they've been on the exact same wavelength. It's been really interesting. Patrick, what's up, man? Glad that you're here with us and getting away from the New York media. If you guys can't tell, I'm playing a little bit hurt today. My throat is a little out of it, but we're going to keep it going. Penix is going to redshirt for 2 years. I think it's really smart for some of these guys. If you have a good quarterback in front of you, I think it's a formula that works. The red shirts sitting out a year or two. I mean, sometimes, you get those guys right off the bat that come in and are just Russell Wilson. I'm going to toot my Seahawks horn here for a second. Russell Wilson comes in after Matt Flynn signed a big deal with the Seahawks to be their quarterback, yet Russ wins the job in training camp, and then the rest is history. They end up winning a Super Bowl. But then you have other guys like Robert Griffin III. Think about him. He got injured really quick, and his career was never the same. And then there's some guys that just don't launch. Your Ryan Leafs, but Green Bay having guys sit for a couple of years. I like the way that typically works. Jordan Love, another example of that. Brock Purdy didn't really sit a ton. The Niners had tried that in the past as well. But it is a fun thing with the quarterback position. Packers have no backup quarterback they can count on. That is why Love is doing this. Well, that's on the Packers then. And by the way, I'm actually going to Lambeau Field in August. I'm really excited. It'll be my first trip out to Wisconsin. Anybody here been to Wisconsin before? Anything I need to know about Wisco? Places to go? Things to see besides Lombardi Drive and Lambeau Field and all that. Yeah, just leave me alone. Yeah, don't talk to me, all right? Yeah, that is the sound drop. It's don't talk to me. Ryan Leaf, that's a Chargers thing. But yeah, looking forward to the trip to Lambeau and the trip to Wisco for a week. That will be a lot of fun. All right, I feel like I'm going to start coughing. I'm going to get right for the 8 o'clock show. We've had a fun show today. Don't forget tomorrow, by the way, Jerry Reynolds Tuesday, right here on the King's Court. Can't wait to have Jerry join us. We'll have some fun. If you have questions, I've said this before in the past, if you have questions for Jerry Reynolds, make sure you get them in the chat. Make sure you send them to me on the X in advance. And as long as they're in the ballpark and it's not like Adam where he's like, hey, should it be Damian Priest or Gunther? Who's going to win? Not those kinds of questions. But if you got some basketball questions or anything that you've ever wanted to ask Jerry, get it up here. We will talk to him about it. I'm thinking about, did anybody read Jerry's book, Reynolds Remembers? Came out, it must have been 10 years ago now. But I want to do a Reynolds Remember segment with Jerry, but around certain things that have happened with the Kings since the book came out. And if there's any questions that you might have about, his time in basketball, his time in the front office, anything about the Monarchs, right? Let me know, and we will get those to him. Man, it has been a fun day at King's Court, remote from a boat. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, that's not going to happen. We will be off that week, but it is the slow time. And then also, by the way, we are going to have Gabriel Harris. I keep telling you about this. Now that Summer League's wrapped up, he is the acting GM of your Stockton Kings. He will be joining us before the summer is out, also efforting the G-Man. We are 3 followers from 1,000, so help us get there on the X. Once we get to 1,000, we will do the Malik Monk signed jersey giveaway, and I'll be making a big announcement that is going to affect the King's Court and what we do going forward. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then also going to be making an announcement about an event. Is it going to be a golf event? Is it going to be a Bennett's event? You'll have to wait. Once we get to 1,000, I will let you know. Make sure you're subscribed, though. If you don't like 7,000, already subscribed to the channel. And that's where all of our library is at. You can find our post-game, halftime shows, all of the in-season shows with Jerry Reynolds And our football shows, by the way, remember football season, we've been talking a ton about it today already. It's going to be coming back. That usually means Sean Salisbury joins us here on the channel on Mondays. We talk NFL football, and then we'll be getting our Pick'em League back together this season. That will be a blast. I believe Peter won that last year. It's free to play, so if you want to be a part of that, let me know, and we will get the information out for you. So we've got a lot coming up. Make sure again that you are subscribed to the Kings Court. That'll take you to the X page and all of our audio. By the way, shoot-arounds are coming back. We actually, by the way, I do have to say this. I apologize. I promise you a shoot-around in the morning every single day, and I have not been doing those. Those are coming back. We have had a sick little man here in our house, and I don't mean like sick cool. He's been sick. So not an excuse. Time to ratchet up, get it back going. So I will have a shoot around back up for you tomorrow. You can find those on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcast. Grant and I are back at 8 o'clock tonight. It will be a fun show. Huge thanks, by the way, again to Justin Snyder. If you notice all these cool Kings Court graphics, he is the one that creates them. So thank you very much, Justin. Sorry I'm cutting it short. We're going to move Ry-does over to tomorrow. Not feeling 100%, but that's all right. I will be back and better than ever and ready to go at 8 o'clock tonight with Grant to talk NFL, NBA, and everything else going on Team USA. Huge thanks to Corndog Gammon for calling. Tadora, hit it.
Holy moly, Jimbaboli.
Yes, indeed. Go Kings, light the damn beam. Yeet.
Yeet.
Stay the hell away from Levine. Court is dismissed.